Extreme hot weather is drying up rivers, killing crops, worsening the energy crisis and forcing governments to enforce water restrictions. The high temperatures have also exposed flaws in the UK's water system and could make it harder for the country's unpopular privatized utilities to borrow money on the public markets. Investors are ready to demand higher yields, especially for providers lagging behind on their leakage targets. An interesting conversation then to dive into with Bloomberg's Priscila Azevedo Rocha, who joins us now. Priscila, very nice to have you with us. So let's take it back to the start then. What is happening in the UK in terms of water management?
In the UK at the moment, companies, particularly in the south of England, in the southwest and southeast, they have imposed or they have announced their intention to impose what is called here hosepipe bans or garden hose bans. So basically they're telling people to restrict their water usage, like do not water your car, do not fill up your pool, or you're subject to a £1,000 fine.
Good morning, Priscilla. How did we get to this situation?
Hi, good morning. So basically there's two sides of this story. In one side we have like the current climate in Europe this year. We had a very dry winter followed by a very dry spring and then an unprecedented level of hot temperatures that we've seen in July that had contributed for rivers and reservoirs to dry out. And on the other side we have the question of the management of those water companies. They are privatized, they are very fragmented, and every region has a different company. And those companies, they have been now making the headlines because at the same time that they have asked people to restrict the water usage, they have been accused of leaking a substantial amount of water. Just to put this into context, every day about 3 billion litres of water are leaked every day in the UK, and that is about 30% of the average consumption.
Yes, and so this is adding up to a lot of scrutiny then on the sector for the reason you mentioned, for leakages, also putting raw sewage into water supplies under some very restricted circumstances. But this happens in the UK. So what's driving that level of scrutiny then?
It's many things. It starts with compensations and pay salaries from executives at the water companies. Those companies, they haven't paid dividends in the past year or so, but the compensation packages for the CEOs, they have increased about 30%. So there is a lot of investment. You see that they have money, they have the support from investors and things like that, but they're still lagging behind their KPIs or the levels of leakage they need to achieve.
Priscilla, you say there that the CEOs have support from investors, but what are investors and water companies saying generally about this whole kind of situation? Because it sounds quite extreme if you're getting that amount of leakage.
Yes, indeed. So basically, investors, they are saying that when those companies, they come back to bond markets in September, just stepping back a bit, water companies in the UK in particular, like many other private companies, they have used the bond markets in the past 5 to 10 years to raise capital to fund their operations, right? Because we had an era of very low central bank with very low yields, with a lot of central bank support that has allowed many more companies to do so, to the point that they account of for about 10% of all the bonds issued from companies out of the UK. So now, because they have a broader investor pool, they're looking at this and they're saying, okay, they need to come back to the market. Of course, the whole market has moved since the headlines, and now everyone that comes to the market is going to have to pay more because we're in a central bank hiking cycle, right? But for those companies in particular, when they come back to the market, investors are going to be asking about their governance, about their ESG credentials, and they're going to demand even more.